Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about Bleach, 1000-Year Blood War Separation, Episode 1, or Episode 14 of 1000-Year Blood War. Hey everybody! Okay, Bleach. I don't think I've actually done a video on the 1000-Year Blood War, but here we are, we're gonna start. I'm gonna see if I can maintain something, hopefully. Anyway, first episode back, gotta say, I personally enjoy it. It was a bit of a slower episode, but that kind of makes sense in that it was just kind of the lull. When you look at the way that they did this, I think this was a pretty good episode to come back on. Now, because it's pretty much adapting the middle portion of an arc, you don't really get a solid reintroduction episode. It's more of a, hey, let's see everyone react to the new battle lines that are being drawn. Let's see where people are in terms of their preparations. You see a lot of preparation work going on in the episode. Overall, in terms of what I was seeing there, though, it's a pretty good return for a middle of the season return. Now, when it comes to the episode itself, there are a lot of standout moments. The first one that I just want to talk about is the sequence at the very beginning. Because when I first saw it, I saw the little thing swimming towards the center, and I thought that's really unfortunate. That really looks like sperm, and I was just thinking I was just thinking, I feel like they could have done a better visual metaphor, but then you find out, no, it wasn't a metaphor at all. It was actually legit, seeing the birth of Yuha-Ba. Or Yuha-Baha is what they're saying in the anime. Okay, Yuha. Anyway, seeing the birth of Yuha right there. Once you saw the cell cluster, it was like, oh, okay, so this is actually very played straight. So props to them. Anyway, seeing that was pretty cool. The visuals for how Yuha came in. I also like seeing his young form. That's the form that we saw before when Ichigo was dealing with Tensa Zangetsu before fighting Aizen. So it was cool to see a return of the design right there. It showed how Yuha's powers work, how he gave away power and gained power back and gained more of his functions. So that was a cool visual for Yuha's power set. Now, moving on from there, the other part that's just super exciting to me is the opening. At first, I wasn't really feeling it, but then you went into the modern life stuff, and it made me nostalgic. One of my favorite endings for Bleach is it's the ending where everyone is pretty much in an alternate universe. It looks like 1900s, America or something like that. I want to say it's ending 20 or ending 28, but don't quote me on that. It's in between there somewhere. It's pretty much just seeing everyone living regular lives. So I kind of really enjoyed that in this opening. I know other openings always have this Shinigami looking casual in modern settings. So it was just a nice return here. It really makes me wish that we had an OVA, which is just an alternate universe or just them in the modern world, because it's cool to see the characters like that. Of course, with the opening, there's a lot of really cool little details that are mixed in there. Rukia's sequence with Asnot was probably one of the coolest sequences, because it's just okay, neat. You see what's going on with her hair, very neat. And overall, the way that the opening set up people going about their regular lives, and then when things go down, you see who's going up against who in the very modern setting. And then you come back to Ichigo and Uryu, and you get thrown back into the actual context of the situation, seeing where they're actually going to be fighting and all that kind of stuff instead of fighting in the modern world. Overall, the idea of the opening is really slick and really cool. I really wish we could see the Bleach characters in a modern setting with modern clothes and actually having their fights there. Just because the imagery of Shinji fighting in a crowded, populated area with his particular power is just a really cool idea. It's a lot more interesting than fighting with stereotypical empty Shinigami streets, or I guess Shinigami barracks, or empty, kind of creepy, icy kind of Nazi castle in the form of what we're going into now with the current battlefield. The modern setting it always has just so much more detail and just much more cool. It has more room for cool. There's more room for cool choreography. I really wish that the modern world, some kind of alternate universe, could be told through the story of the openings, but we haven't gotten that. Anyway, opening really made me excited. I love how they integrate that whole thing. Going into the episode itself, like I said at the top, it's pretty much just a chill, calm before the storm type episode. We do end up getting a lot of people moving into place. One thing with the episode is I got really excited just knowing the future and what the setups are going on here. When we have Kyoraku talking about, is Ichigo getting stronger really the best for Soul Society? That's exciting. That's just an exciting line of thought. The follow through with him going to give his Ichigo's friends The soul passes I think was very nice as well. It's interesting how he's talking about a 1 in 10,000 type of thing, but he's still doing the courtesy of like, yo guys, this might happen. And honestly, when you look at Ichigo's existence, the issue here is that Ichigo is usually like a 1 in a million type person. He kind of does the impossible, so like in this case, yeah, you know, it's a 1 in 10,000 shot, but with Ichigo, who has a habit of doing this repeatedly, it's like, this is actually a little bit more likely than the statistics imply. So overall, that sequence was pretty cool. When we look at the other characters, we have movements in almost every arena. We have Uryu getting his Shrit. We have Urahara over in Hueco Mundo, and we see that, I'm pretty sure it's the Fullbringers coming in, because you can see Yukio's hand there when they're approaching Urahara. I think in terms of positioning, oh yeah, we also saw the Fullbringers, not Fullbringers, we also saw the divisor they're going to be doing, so that was another interesting position for them to move into. In terms of like the more interesting thoughts, one thing that just like kind of stuck with me was actually in the beginning sequence with Ichibei talking to Ichigo about the Shinigami having gotten weaker after like 1,000 years of peace or whatnot. And that's a pretty common trope, the idea that peace makes people weaker because they're not actually because they're not always on edge, they're not really accelerating development, they're not really always thinking about battle. So, you know, that makes sense, but like, Ichigo asked them, well, why do you guys do anything? And they're like, well, we can only watch. And it's like, yeah, see, there's the problem. You guys kind of need these people to be strong, but yet you're okay with just watching from afar. And I mean, like, you could come up with the excuses, but ultimately, the complacency, I think, affected them too. I think if they were in wartime, I think things would be significantly different. But it's just, you know, I think there's multiple layers of fault here. Speaking of Ichibei, we see that he gets Rukia and Renji. They've been training up. They're doing regular things, but they were under a very tense environment. And we also see that Byakuya is back. So that was pretty neat. One thing that, you know, I feel kind of sad about is like, I kind of wish it wasn't the more important characters getting direct training from the Zero Squad. I wish there was more characters in general. I mean, like, you know, in Bleach there are some characters that will almost always be competitive with whoever they're fighting, like Mayuri. And, you know, Kenpachi got his own training. But looking at Mayuri, a character like Mayuri is probably going to be okay. You don't have to actually worry about training him up because like he'll do it himself. So he's a bit of an exception. But when it comes to other characters, I wish it wasn't just Renji and Rukia getting the training. I wish it wasn't just Byakuya. I wish there were other characters that have been underserved who get the training. Like, I know that Hitsugaya's off training, but it'd be cool. It'd be cool if he was there with the Zero Squad. Heck, get some of the lieutenants. Some of the lieutenants don't really have their Bankais. Get them involved. Let them do something. Get them trained up. Like send Rangiku up there so that she can do some stuff and like get better. You know. It just feels like a wasted opportunity. It'd be cool if there were more characters getting involved with that kind of training, because just like the training that the Zero Squad would give you would probably trump any training you can come up with by yourself, unless you're Mayuri. Even then, I still think maybe the Zero Squad could give him one or two things. Heck, man, when I look at the vice captains, like really, all of them could use some training from the Zero Squad, some direct tutelage. If we're gonna keep complaining about them being so weak, like Zero Squad, you could step in and help more of them. Anyway, yeah, that's like the only unfortunate thing. When you really think about it, it makes sense why things went down the way they did, because those characters there are the more important ones. Would be neat if it was. It would be neat if it wasn't like that. But there was, back in the day of the manga, I think there was also an issue of just we need to like move things along. So I don't think Kubo could spend that much time lingering on which characters got upgraded and which ones didn't, especially if they weren't going to show up in battles later on. Speaking of training, we also see that Inoue and Chad are getting some training too, because they're talking about it, and it's like, you guys aren't going to be able to do anything. I think it's really funny that in the opening, other people are fighting, and those two are just kind of sitting around somewhere else, completely removed from the combat. And it's like, yeah, this is a reflection of everything. The humans got really left behind when it came to their power sets, and I kind of wish this wasn't just the Ichigo and Shinigami show. I kind of wish those original humans could still do some more. But that's overall gripe with the overall series, not really this episode. Anyway, guys, there's not really much else to talk about other than next week's gonna be exciting. Oh, you know what? There was the stuff on the Stern Ritter side. I forgot about them. It was really cool to see Naklevar. It was cool to see his little power demonstration. I love the way he speaks. I think that's really good foreshadowing in general. Also, he's like the Aizen wannabe of this group, so always great to see one of those. We see Bambi and we see her little cape. I don't know what else you can call it. The interaction with the Stern Ritter and their resistance to Uryu was, I think, very good in terms of just like fleshing them out and kind of telling us where they are. When it comes to Stern Ritter, like actually my favorite part with them is the ending, just because the ending does that very creepy thing of implying, or like I shouldn't say imply, showing that the Stern Ritter were in the shadows the entire time. So that's just a neat little thing that went in there. I really like the implementation of the Stern Ritter in the Shinigami shadows. That was pretty neat. Oh, one more thing about the Stern Ritters. You might be able to see it on the blue screen behind me, but I love that screen because it just talks about one of the Stern Ritters. Let me just get the right wording for you. Right. It talks about Shaz Domino having a title that was unknown to the other Stern Ritter. And it's just really cool how they talked about it because he's linked to a story that came out in one of the fan books. So that was just a really cool drop. I don't think that the anime ever actually acknowledged it. I know the manga did it. But yeah, no, that was a really cool little drop there. I really like the little info segments that the episode has. Really neat. I can't wait to see more of them. I hope more of them like point to Can't Fear Your Own World or something like that. Because like the trailers for this season seem to imply that there's going to be some Can't Fear Your Own World related material. And for those that don't know, Can't Fear Your Own World is a novelization project that happened after the Bleach manga ended. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought down below, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.